The Florida Panthers start off their 5-game road trip with 2 important road points, but a bigger story comes out of this one and what is next for a former Panthers first-round pick.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Monday, December 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News, and you can follow me on X at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. And today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So the Florida Panthers had a matinee matchup against the Columbus Blue Jackets from Nationwide Arena yesterday afternoon and come out with a 5-2 road victory. 2 road points for the Cats to start off this road trip. So far, 2 out of a possible 2 points. But bigger story comes out of this one as everything that happened in the third period, which we will talk about more in segment number 2. But we're going to talk about how the Florida Panthers came out with this win on Sunday afternoon, and all happened with the Columbus Blue Jackets not having their captain in Boone Jenner. Very important piece that is lost for the Columbus Blue Jackets on this one. Net front presence on the power play. And the Panthers in this one had a good amount of zone time as they were getting their changes, as they were getting pucks in deep. And the forecheck in the corner resulted in the first goal of the game. Carter Verhaeghe gets it, pokes it out, and then the quick passing from the Florida Panthers getting it to Gus Forsling to make it 1-0. And Gus Forsling, 3 points on the night, three shots on goal, and took some for the Panthers. At times, the pinches resulted in odd man rushes, and it really took some time for them to really settle down. It really happened in the first and parts of the second period as well. Gus Forsling spoke about in intermission that that's really got to be something better as far as their gains. But really, it came down to really the Columbus Blue Jackets losing the Panthers in the corners on this one, and it happened even on the second goal, being faster to pucks, and Carter Verhaeghe getting it up to the slot and then quickly getting in front of the net in front of Jet Greaves, who had a 40 save performance on Friday against the St. Louis Blues. And then when you're faster as the puck, get it up to the point, and then Sam Reinhart drives a little bit to the high slot, and everyone's eyes are on Sam Reinhart. Everyone takes their eyes off of Carter Verhaeghe, and then he redirects it in. A few inches away from it being a high stick, but close enough that Pascal Vincent did not challenge that play as the Florida Panthers made it 2-1 at the time as well. But the Panthers really, it wasn't really about it wasn't really about the Panthers really stopping the Columbus Blue Jackets' odd man rushes, because like I said, it continued into the second period. What the Panthers did do well was when it got to the neutral zone, the Panthers clogging up the passing lanes, closing in their gaps. That's really what happened. And it really happened when Panthers lost the puck in their offensive zone, and they went the Columbus Blue Jackets went the other way and all. So that is really how the Columbus Blue Jackets got their opportunities. But you got to give credit to the Panthers really in that second period, because outside of those chances for Columbus, the Panthers only surrendered 5 shots on goal in the 20 minutes in the second period as well. And even the Panthers were trying to cash in later on in the second period as they really got a lot of the offensive zone time. OEL gets a shot through a screen off the post. Nico Mikkola goes through the zone and then has a backhand opportunity. And just crazy to think that we weren't expecting this Nico Mikkola to have this as far as his offensive game after what he's done in the last few seasons with the New York Rangers and the St. Louis Blues. And quietly, this is, I know the top line for the Panthers was the biggest story for the team, but Nico Mikkola gets another point on the afternoon on Sunday. So just when it comes down to what the different players who are contributing for the Florida Panthers in different areas of the ice, you really see how one part of it makes up for different parts. And thinking about when, and not even mentioning yet that Paul Maurice stuck with the lines going into this one that he had at the end of their most recent game. So that's also a big carryover for the Panthers, and that you could break glass in case of emergency, in case things go wrong, excuse me, as far as what happened. And we saw what happened, the jump that the Panthers had on Friday night against the Pittsburgh Penguins once that happened. And really for this one, the Columbus Blue Jackets didn't really get their first push until 4 minutes in. And all the momentum was taken away from the Columbus Blue Jackets after everything that happened in the third period, with Nick Cousins gets a 2-minute minor for boarding Erik Gudbranson, and then after that, about 13 minutes left, where Erik Gudbranson goes after Nick Cousins for instigating and fighting, and the Panthers cash in on a 7-minute penalty, get 12 shots on goal. Even though a lot of their shots were from the outside, the Panthers were still able to get one through. Multiple units were on, and finally the Panthers, with about 30 seconds left, they crashed the net. And what great play for Sam Bennett to dive to the puck, to poke it out to Barkov, to knock it into the open net. Something that Jeff Chikrin spoke about in the intermission with Craig Minervini, which I also want to congratulate Craig Minervini for going all the way up to Tallahassee, calling a whole bunch of high school football games, doing play-by-play, and then coming back to cover the Panthers just a few days later. So big congratulations to Craig Minervini on this whole weekend of getting such a big gig as well when it comes to that, and also Bally Sports as well. So big insurance goal that the Panthers had, and this is all with the Panthers surrendering only 19 shots on goal. And the first one, like we said, odd man rush. The Blue Jackets were waiting for a shot opportunity for when it was a 1-on-4, a screen through 4 Panthers defenders, and then Anthony Stolarz reacts a little late on that one as well. But still, Stolarz is at a .912 save percentage on the season, so not much to complain about. That you don't expect that in a full workload, but the little bit that you're getting from Anthony Stolarz, gotta be quite pleased as far as that. And then the second one to cut it to 3-2, crashing in front of the net, cutting it close. But the Panthers got that insurance goal on the 7-minute power play that the Panthers never looked back on it. So Barkov gets a 3-point game. Sam Reinhart gets a 4-point game, and all. So it's just great for the Panthers to lock it down when necessary, and then resulting in the 2 empty net goals towards the end, which, even though it's an empty net goal, Tkachuk is on the board once again on getting his 5th goal of the season. And Barkov, can you believe it? It's his first power play goal of the season. Hard to believe, which Evan Rodriguez, we spoke about how he has a power play goal, but Matthew Tkachuk and Sasha Barkov don't. And Barkov, man, so many great things to say about him of this season. We spoke about him in the Selke conversation, but now he's getting it done on the offensive side of the ice. And the Panthers, it's a good tone setter for them as they start this road trip, not only with 2 points, but doing it in regulation as well. So a lot of tiebreakers as of right now for the Panthers it's gonna go their way if it comes down to that. Still a lot of work to do before they catch up to the Boston Bruins, but take care of your business through 28 games, and and the Panthers, they're doing 27 games, and the Panthers, they're going to be just fine if they continue doing what they're doing as well as that. But we are going to address the elephant in the room, which was all the extracurriculars that happen post whistle in this matchup between the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets. So we're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride or die or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has officially launched the first ever 24/7 streaming channel for Locked On Sports Today. So make sure to subscribe to Locked On Sports Today for your 24/7 streaming channel, and brings you also a multitude of shows there from the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the big elephant in the room, the big talking point, as far as the biggest headline, as far as everything that happened between Nick Cousins and former Panthers first round pick from the 2010 NHL entry draft, Erik Gudbranson. And it's crazy because thankfully with Bally Sports, the app, you can watch games later and no commercials, and knew everything that happened going into this one, but I wanted to watch it myself, and thankfully, I did see one hit that happened with a minute left in the first period, after knowing everything that happened before pressing play. And there was a big hit that Erik Gudbranson got Nick Cousins up high at the far end wall, half wall, and thinking, okay, maybe that was the more of things to come for the Panthers as far as that. And it's been a crazy weekend with Larkin getting sandwiched by Matthew Joseph and Parker Kelly, and then David Perron going after the wrong guy, Artem Zub to be exact, and getting a 5-minute major, which Kelly and Joseph were assessed 2-minute minors. Dylan Larkin hit to the neck, goes down on the ice, and Dylan Larkin has been through a lot lately with everything that happened off the ice with losing a child, and also what happened a few years ago in the shortened season with Jamie Benn cross-checking him in the neck as well. And also this weekend where Kyle Okposo, captain of the Buffalo Sabres, is confused on a major that Eric Robinson had on Justin Barron, and then Evander Kane boards Jonas Brodin, and Brodin leaves the game. No penalty called on Evander Kane. And then Nick Cousins, with 30-ish seconds into the third period, which, funny enough, Steve Goldstein mentioned that the Panthers were penalty free through 40 minutes, even mentioned their last game where they didn't have a single penalty, which was back in 2017. And looking at natural stat trick, you see 20 minutes of 5-on-5 for the first, 20 minutes of 5-on-5 for the second, and then the third period, the hockey gods say LMAO. Not going to happen today. And then just goes to from 0 to 100 real quick, even though we saw that hit very early on, 19 minutes into the game in the first period. But Nick Cousins and Erik Gudbranson going after a puck at the end boards. You see Erik Gudbranson looking back a little bit. He's not wearing a goalie mask, so he can use his peripherals to see Nick Cousins, which looks, from that freeze frame that I posted on X, if you guys want to check it out, it looks can't confirm, but it looks like Erik Gudbranson sees Nick Cousins and could have slowed down to body him up and box him out for that puck at the end boards. And where Nick Cousins, as far as his closing speed, gets on the right side of the shoulder, as far as the check, doesn't get completely to the side. And this is where gray area comes into play about what's a boarding and what's not. And regardless of whether you agree or not, whether it's a 5-minute major or not, two things can be true. Number one, there needs to be transparency on this, because thankfully Kirby Lupul reminded me of what happened with Aaron Ekblad back in 2016, when the Panthers visited the Edmonton Oilers back in 2016, and Hendricks had a hit on Aaron Ekblad, and then Logan Shaw goes after Hendricks there, and all. There needs to be transparency on this, regardless of whether you agree or not. But second, it was reviewed. It was reviewed. It wasn't assessed a 5-minute major at first, but now looking at everything, and then with Erik Gudbranson not liking the hit after going after Nick Cousins, yeah, people can talk about the turtle position, whatever. But have to. The only reason why it's a penalty at all is because they first assessed that 5-minute major and then went to review it, and took a lot of time too. Let's not forget that. If you happen to watch this game, it took a while for them to get the verdict. And I don't know what you're looking for. If the referees did in fact look at the play, took time, and then said, nope, it's not directly in the middle of the numbers. And that goes back to Nick Cousins' closing speed and the angle at which Gudbranson's shoulders were, because he did lean into the board. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I'm leaning my shoulder a little bit to my left, which you're seeing on your screen to your right, which Nick Cousins was able to get a little bit, not directly to the side, but a little bit back. So that is where we argue what is boarding and what is not. It's like in football, what's a catch and what's not a catch as well, right? So a little bit of relation as far as that. But what happened after? And Steve Goldston even said it, that once the gloves were dropped by Gudbranson on Nick Cousins, Steve Goldstein said, wait until the next shift. And boy, was he right. Where Nick Cousins was going up the near side wall, Erik Gudbranson grabs Nick Cousins, throws him down, and then starts punching him. And I don't know what you're expecting if you're going to take someone down in that moment where you're the one throwing the punches as well. I'm not sure what the conversation was, if Nick Cousins denied or didn't want to fight. Don't know. But honestly, what you can't be surprised when the opposition is getting a 7-minute power play out of that, when you instigated everything from it after the fact. Yes, there's that whole things get out of control if a referees allow them to. However, it was a 2-1 game. You had a chance to win. Yeah, there was a lot of shot suppression from the Panthers towards the Jackets, and the Blue Jackets could have won this game too if where Carter Verhaeghe had a chance to end the game on an empty net and he missed the net. And you're thinking, once the Blue Jackets score, you're thinking, oh no, the Panthers could be in trouble here. But it was a close game, a 2-1 game, and Erik Gudbranson made a selfish play. There's no way around it. It's selfish. It's Bush League, and it has no place in this as far as that. You want to argue the Nick Cousins play? There's going to be a lot of division as far as that. But you can't argue what Erik Gudbranson did. And as of right now, I'm going to look this up as I speak. I do not like checking Twitter in the middle of doing a solo show, because talking and looking at my phone at the same time is not is not the easiest thing to do as far as that. And I want to look at the screen, but there's nothing updated as far as Erik Gudbranson's as far as a suspension that's coming as far as that. But he is having a hearing today under Rule 46.2 of aggressor for the altercation that happened. And and Erik Gudbranson would be a repeat offender. Back in 2017, when he was with the Vancouver Canucks, he had a boarding call against Frank Vatrano. This was before Frank Vatrano was even a Florida Panther. So cat on cat crime, question mark, even though we couldn't foresee that Frank Vatrano was going to be on the Panthers, but now looking back at it, so, and it's just it's been a frustrating career for Gudbranson. You're thinking 7 teams in the last 11 years, and what's gone on as far as trying to live up to the stock of his being a 3rd overall pick in 2010. So it's been a very frustrating career for him as well. So just you hope that those selfish plays like that are taken away, but also we can wish and we can hope that there is more transparency of what is and what isn't boarding as far as that. And it was reviewed, and after taking a lot of time for that and reversing it to a minor, that's where we have to give it to the referees and the replay booth out in Toronto for making that decision. Don't be mad at Nick Cousins. Be if you want to be mad at the people who make the rules, but it doesn't we still need to have that transparency. Next matchup for the Florida Panthers and the Columbus Blue Jackets, it's going to be a while before these guys see each other again. April 11th at home. Third to last game of the season for the Panthers. But with where Erik Gudbranson's career trajectory has been, will he even be with the Columbus Blue Jackets when the Panthers and the Blue Jackets face off against each other again in April? Because it's not going well for the Blue Jackets as far as that. And is Gudbranson possibly a trade piece to go elsewhere? Or if the Panthers do meet Erik Gudbranson, he's in another team's uniform, will he make another play again and go after Nick Cousins again after that? But the Panthers, though, they won't forget this when they see Gudbranson again. It could get ugly as far as that. But thankfully, if Erik Gudbranson does stay with the Blue Jackets, it'll be a while. So cooler heads have an opportunity to prevail here, but don't want to make any promises as well as far as that. But in segment number 3, we are going to discuss more about how the Panthers have set up themselves up so well through this so far through this 5-game road trip, the players who are currently on streaks, and what the Panthers will still need, as we are still a few months away from the trade deadline and the Panthers are still trying to figure themselves out. We are going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. With the new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Sam Reinhart could score 50 goals and the Panthers could hoist the Stanley Cup. And you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in hockey contests. All you have to do is pick studs like Sam Reinhart, Connor McDavid, Alexander Ovechkin, or Sidney Crosby, if they will record more or less than their sleeper projection for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win a 100 times bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Cats fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. Use code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Third and final segment here on this Monday, December 11th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Monday edition of the show. So, some Panthers are getting it going so lately. Eetu Luostarinen is on a 2-game goal streak. Matthew Tkachuk, and once again, spoke about earlier in the week how Matthew Tkachuk, when it comes to scoring, only cares about one thing and one thing only: if the team wins, if he happens to get on the score sheet. If he doesn't score but the team wins, he's more than happy to take that dub. But empty net goal from, and it didn't look like that Matthew Tkachuk was trying to hit the net. It looked like maybe like 180, 100, 190 feet across the ice. And that's 2 goals in the last 5 games as well. And all. So, and Barkov, something that we have. So there's so many great things to say about this guy. Six goals against at even strength this season. And this is a guy who's missed 4 games this year. 3-game point streak right now, and 6 points in the last 3 goals, 3 assists, 8 points in the last 5, 4-4 there. And like we mentioned earlier, first power play goal of the season. Sam Reinhart, third best plus minus, just 2 behind Barkov. The only person in between them is Quinn Hughes, who the Panthers are going to see in this upcoming road trip. And where you think about where Sam Reinhart stands as far as tied for third, as far as the Rocket Richard race. And one of the players who are in contention for the Rocket Richard might miss a little bit of time because Kyle Connor did get injured last night against the Anaheim Ducks, against Ryan Strome on a knee-on-knee collision. That was called a 5-minute major by the referees there. And you think about the guys who are ahead of him in the goals and points race. As far as goals, Nikita Kucherov, Austin Matthews, Brock Besser, who's, again, we're going to see Brock Besser on Thursday. Kucherov has had a very quiet. He's quietly had the most points in the NHL, and nobody's talking about it. Maybe because most of the conversation has been the amount of high danger chances that the Tampa Bay Lightning are giving up, even with Vasilevsky in net. And tied for 5th in points, Elias Pettersson's up there. We're mentioning a lot of Canucks here as far as that. And Rhino with a 5-game point streak with 10 points in that, to over 2 points a game in that. And Verhaeghe, he's hot. We spoke about the line changes as far as that. As far as break class in case of emergency, you have Carter Verhaeghe to play on that top line, which he's so used to Barkov over these last 3 years. But you also have an opportunity as far as putting Verhaeghe down on the second line, where him, Bennett, and Tkachuk have meshed so well. And here's the thing, going back to Nick Cousins and his ability to go up and down, I think long term he's better suited for the bottom 6 as far as that, especially if you get him on the fourth line, which will bring a lot more depth. And it goes back to what the Panthers could trade for as far as the upcoming trade deadline on March 8th. And I don't think, thankfully, the defensive side of the puck, of the ice, is the biggest strength of this team once again. And the luxury that they've had of having defensemen Oliver Ekman-Larsson and the guys like Nico Mikkola, you could plug and play Uvis Balinskis and Dmitry Kulikov, and Josh Mahura hasn't even been back yet, and all, and you have that depth. So I don't think that the Panthers will be trading for a blue liner. They're not trading for a goalie neither. So it makes it fairly obvious what the Panthers could be trading for in this upcoming trade deadline, and it could be wing help as well. And the Panthers, on Sunday, we mentioned about how with the Blue Jackets missing Boone Jenner, about how stacked they were down the middle against Columbus. Just going to look up their face-off percentage real quick as far as what happened on Sunday. 51-49 in favor of Columbus, but still, what the Panthers have as far as the up and down through lines 1 to 3, they have a lot of advantages over other teams. Where you want the Panthers to maybe bring some improvements in is the bottom 6 wing positions as far as that. And that's what the Panthers will, I believe, will be looking for. And yeah, they don't have a first or second in the upcoming draft, so we could see something maybe around like maybe a third or fifth traded, or even a future two, maybe, that we could see as far as that. So got to get creative if you are Bill Zito as far as that. But could they also decide to bring Mackie Semiskevich back into the mix? Could they? He got a 2-goal game yesterday, and 2 of his 5 goals came yesterday, and the only goal that the Checkers gave up was on an odd man rush, shorthanded. That was Spencer Knight's only goal that he gave up on the afternoon. Excuse me, night against the Hershey Bears, the Calder Cup champions. So that is something to consider if you decide not to trade for a bottom 6 winger as far as that. But the Panthers are really truly set up so well on this upcoming road trip. You're going into Seattle, a team that's lost 8 straight. They brought Chris Drieger back into the mix from Coachella Valley due to Philip Grubauer going on injured reserve. So could they see Chris Drieger on Tuesday? Maybe. And it's going to be up and down as far as huge tests for the Panthers. You have a matchup advantage against Seattle. Not going to be an easy game because they're desperate for wins. Vancouver, who the thing is, Vancouver, there wasn't a huge, the stars are showing up and not a lot of turnover from this team. You put in a different coach, you put different depth pieces, but the stars are still performing as far as that. And yeah, there's a lot of tough love from Rick Tocchet this season as far as what he's doing, as far as benching players even when they're winning. JT Miller earlier this season, and then recently Andrei Kuzmenko as far as that. And think about how the Vancouver Canucks traded their captain Bo Horvat last season. You think they're going in a downward trajectory, but no, it's been the opposite of that. And they can score on the power play. Quinn Hughes is likely to win the Norris, and they're getting the goaltending, more importantly, from American Thatcher Demko as well. So that won't be an easy one on Thursday. And then the Edmonton Oilers, who the sleeping giant is awake. We spoke. I know it was really fresh into the Chris Knobloch era for the Oilers, but the Panthers were still able to get a dub against Edmonton when things were still in a little bit of turmoil for the Oilers. And now Edmonton has won 7 straight, 7-3-0 in their last 10, and now they're exactly at 25 points on the season, and only 3 points behind in the wild card in the West. So, yeah, it's not going to be an easy one. And Calgary still figuring things out as far as what to do as far as goaltending, with Dustin Wolf in the mix, Jacob Markstrom, Jonathan Huberdeau trying to fit with the team after a coaching change, Nazem Kadri with what's going on with a new GM in Craig Conroy, new coach in Ryan Hutska. A lot of things are up and down for the Calgary Flames. So the opportunity is there, even if you get even a point in Vancouver or Edmonton and you get 2 out of the 4 in the middle part of the road trip, you're still setting up yourself pretty damn well as far as the rest of the road trip to possibly get over 500. And that's the goal for the Panthers as far as trying to come back home right before they welcome in the St. Louis Blues from Amerant Bank Arena next Thursday. So longest road trip of the season, but the Panthers got off to a great start and set the tone with the 2 points in Columbus. But on tomorrow's edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, we are going to preview tomorrow's game between the Florida Panthers and the Seattle Kraken, as the Panthers will make their first visit to Seattle since last year, December 3rd. And we're going to discuss that more on tomorrow's edition of the show. But in the meantime, If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On AHL network, including Locked On AHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez, signing off. And you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.